after the Paris Agreement, but 30 years after the Rio Summit, we are all rightfully questioning whether this space and multilateralism can deliver for the future. What is the future for it is being asked in many questions. Will the Belém COP be able to save the Paris Agreement? This is the question on everybody's lips. But we are asking the question, and we are making the statement that we do not believe that the Paris Agreement or multilateralism can be solved with the same obstruction and the same hollow promises and empty coffers that we have seen for the last 30 years. Where we have seen in the last 30 years, the rich countries, the global north, not put any meaningful finance on the table, as they still are refusing to do here. Undermining constantly of the principles of historical justice and common but differentiated responsibility, which hollows out the very belly of the Paris Agreement of justice in the multilateral system. We will not save the multilateral system unless those who are responsible for the climate crisis, the global north and rich polluting countries, transnational corporations, and increasingly the wealthy billionaires and oligarchs who control our economies, who control the media, who control our systems, are made to take responsibility and stop operating with impunity. We will not save the Paris Agreement or multilateralism with a large-scale privatization and a financialization of life that we are seeing happen here in these halls and outside of these halls as well. With the proposals for carbon markets as a solution for finance, which is selling the air, selling the trees, selling the waters, so that they can become assets on financial markets. To raise money for climate finance from private finance and financial markets, which pushes global south countries and all our peoples further into debt, that we have to bear the responsibility of the failure of those same actors to take any action on climate justice. Where there's no public finance, they claim that no public finance is available, when we are increasingly, when countries, especially in the global north, are increasingly spending trillions on militaries and war and militarization of our streets, as we can see here. So in our panel, we're going to talk about the people's solutions that we came, and we have a wonderful panel. And I'm going to move on to the first speaker, who is Francisco KelvimKelvim from the Movement of People Affected by Dams.
Thank you, Kitano. Good morning. The People's Summit is the result of a huge process that directly involved more than 1,500 organizations around the world. Together, more than 50,000 people participating of the People's Summit at the Federal University of Pará these days. Together, we built the Global Day of Action with more than 7,000 people in the streets of Belém to demand climate justice. Thousands of people that coming from around all the world. More than 80 countries around the world were in this process. We are the unity in the diversity, expressed in our declaration of the People's Summit. To confront false solutions, we demand the participation, the leadership of the people in the construction of the climate solutions, recognize ancestral knowledge. We demand in the People's Summit the demarcation and the protection of the lands and territories of indigenous peoples and other local peoples and communities. We demand in the People's Summit the end of the wars, and we demand the militarization and include the strong military presence in this COP is unacceptable for us. We demand justice and popular transition. We demand the end of the exploitation of fossil fuels and call the governments to develop mechanisms to ensure the non-proliferation of fossil fuels. Yet for us, Putirão looks like not enough for this. We are the people of the world that unite and have a way of building real solutions for the climate crisis. It's why the definition that we have in the People Summit is the process has to continue during this COP to ensure the real solutions, to ensure the things that we debate all around the world with our declaration to be agreement in this space of the COP. And we will continue to make a process of fighting here inside the COP with all the organizations to our demand being heard by the governments and by the countries.
Thank you. Kelvin, we have a next speaker, the next speaker, Bruno Prado from the National Alliance for Agroecology, who will tell us about how we built proposals for a public system in the face of large-scale privatization while we were building the People Summit.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Peter. So we leave the People Summit with a message that cannot be ignored. We're being sold false solutions, and they're taking us away from climate justice. At the same time, we have the concrete proposals that are being put into practice, that we saw into practice during the days of the People Summit. So when we're saying that the answer comes from the territories and the territórios, as we say, we have them in concrete. We saw, for example, as food sovereignty is in the center and along with other important issues for us around these days, we have built a collective kitchen, a solidarity kitchen that meant that more than 60 tons of food came to this territory of the People Summit to show that agroecology and to show that the food sovereignty has the proposals that we want against the false solutions that are being sold to us. So when we're showing this in practice, being distributed healthy food brought from the territories, brought from family farmers, from indigenous peoples, from quilombolas, from different regions of Brazil, we're saying these are the solutions that we want to see and that we have them in practice. Apart from that, we also want to have a legacy. So much of the Solidarity Kitchen that has been built for the People Summit are going to be distributed to communities in Pará. Also, tons of food that came from these territories are also going to be. So this is what we have been saying. We have the solutions, and we're not only speaking, but we're doing it. So the People Summit wanted to bring this to light, to say that climate justice is being done in the territories, is being done by the peoples, and we want to see them put in practice. If we want a real mutirão, that's what we can present to them. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. I would next like to invite Rajita Gupta from the Global Campaign to Demand Climate Justice.
We gather here because global movement and international solidarity are essential. No COP, no presidency, and no government can deliver climate justice without frontline communities. Our Global South movements, the indigenous peoples, feminists, workers, youth, queer, peasants, fisherfolk have carried this truth for decades. This crisis is rooted in colonialism, extraction, racism, patriarchy, and an economic system that sacrifices our lives for someone else's profit. At COP30, this truth must guide every decision. Inside the negotiations, the stakes could not be higher. There are debates on climate finance, loss and damage, adaptation finance, real fossil fuel phase out, and just transition. These choices decide whether climate action is real or another document protecting the powerful. Yet the global north countries are blocking progress. They refuse to admit that their wealth was built on extraction from our lands and futures. They refuse to accept that they owe us a climate debt. So let's be clear, climate finance is historical responsibility and reparations. It must be public, land-based, and non-debt creating, and not loans or Wall Street schemes. We need real finance for adaptation, for loss and damage, so communities can rebuild, and for a fast, fair, funded transition away from fossil fuels, starting with those who caused this crisis. A just transition must answer who pays, who moves first, and whose lives matter. It must be funded by historical emitters and cannot be built on new extractivism disguised as critical minerals. This is not transition, it is green colonialism. Rich countries are trying to narrow the just transition, erase equity, and delay timelines. While blocking real action, they push false solutions like carbon markets, offsets, nature-based schemes, geoengineering, all designed to commodify our lands and let polluters keep polluting. This is carbon colonialism, and we absolutely reject it. Meanwhile, 1,600 fossil fuel, 531 carbon capture and storage, and 800 industrial agriculture lobbyists roam inside COP30. More than many climate vulnerable delegations, more than the delegations of so many constituencies here who represent the civil society from around the world. Their influence chokes ambition and betrays frontline communities. And while polluters move freely, we see increased militarization, military police restricting movement, indigenous people's silence, and grassroots organizing survey. This is not the Brazilian way or the Amazonian way. But hear this, you cannot police our bodies and not our movements. You can restrict our entry but not our organizing. Because the same forces driving violence, militarism, authoritarianism, and genocide outside are the same forces blocking justice inside. The same governments funding wars, refuse climate finance, the same corporations extracting from our lands distort climate rules. From the Amazon to Palestine, people are rising against these systems. And we say clearly, there is no climate justice without Palestinian liberation. There is no climate justice without indigenous sovereignty, land-backed workers' rights, food sovereignty, reparations, and system change. The People's Summit has shown that people's power is rising, resisting authoritarianism, and building real solutions. We are the solution. And a successful COP30 must deliver our demands on real finance, end to false solutions, and a just transition rooted in justice. They may barricade doors, but our power is outside, and they may try to silence us, but our movements are louder. They may try to divide us, but we are global, organized, and unstoppable. The world is watching, our people are rising, and our movements are only getting stronger. I reiterate, there is no climate justice without Palestinian liberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachita. And now I would like to call our final speaker, who is Dilma Bruno from the Zimbabwe Smallholder Organic Farmers Forum, Lavia Mendocina.
Thank you very much, Rachita. I would love to say, alone I can laugh, but with others I'm always happy and I can enjoy. It is the power of coming together. It is the power of being together that can move everything. The power of organizing and the power of social movements coming together in the People's Summit could be seen. No one could imagine a march of 70,000 people gathered just by talking, and they came and they demonstrated like that. So it is the power of socialism. And it is within that power that we know that I am because you are. What has capitalism done? It says I am because I am. If I have my money, if I have my things, I am. I don't care about who you are. But with socialism, with our movements, I say I have the power because you are by my side. And let's work towards that. I want to just say what has gone wrong. What are we fighting for that we're bringing here? We're fighting for the first, to understand the nature of our problem. when we started, our people had a system that was standing, that was really clear. People had a spiritual sense. They communicated to the spirit. And that spirit communicated to nature. And nature told the people what to do. It was a tripartite movement. People talking to their spirits, the spirits talking to nature, and nature talking to people. What has happened? Where has it gone wrong? People are no longer, they are trying to talk to spirits, and spirits are trying to talk to nature, and nature has been killed. The ground has been fertilized by poisons, and the plants that were supposed to talk to us have been killed, and they are not being taken care of. And so that communication line has been broken. And because instead of talking about nature, the governments are talking about money. They are trying to replace this item, which was very important to us as a people, to say, okay, let's put money will talk. Money will never solve it. Money can buy a bed, but it can never give you sleep. You see, that's the problem. Money can buy food, but it can never give you appetite. So nature should be honored as nature. And because of that disturbance of nature, we are saying as a movement, as the summit, the answer is with us who understand nature. It's not within the walls here, but it is there outside where we understand nature ourselves, how we relate to it, how we must it be, because that's the solution. Because the climate is saying, this crisis is saying, you have not observed me as nature. So we are saying we have a way. Let's come back and respect what the people know. It will give us a future. If we don't, and if governments don't see that, the world is going down. Unless they turn around and come to us and ask for the way, how it is done, then they will see. These walls in here are not able to solve the problem, but it is the people themselves who know how to solve the problem.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 minutes. Is there any questions? Online or from the room? Okay, thank you very much. I think we would like to just conclude by saying, that we see that we are being offered a choice as people's movements between a neoliberal and corporate captured version of multilateralism, or a move to far-right and authoritarian nationalism and a rejection of the system. But we do not take that choice. We do not see that as a choice, we reject that choice, and we offer an alternative, which is the people's multilateralism, the people's solutions that we built in the People's Summit and that we are here to discuss and propose. So we have all our speakers who are available today, who will be there during the presentation of the Mutirao system, who are available to talk about our assessments, and thank you for joining us.